Mr. Musk, did you use your government position to benefit your private companies? The question hangs in the air like a guillotine blade. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sits at the elevated dais, perfectly composed in a burgundy suit, staring down at the richest men in the world. Elon Musk, worth $358 billion, sits at the witness table below, black jeans, black SpaceX t-shirt, his signature Doge baseball cap, that characteristic smirk on his face. But his eyes betray something else: calculation, fear. Congresswoman, he says, leaning into his microphone. I saved the American taxpayer hundreds of millions of dollars. I cut waste. I improved efficiency. That's what I was hired to do. It's a good answer, practiced, deflective, classic Musk. Crockett doesn't smile. She picks up a document from the stack in front of her, a stack 3 inches thick, tabs sticking out in different colors. Let me rephrase, she says, her Texas accent carrying clearly through the packed hearing room. During your 130 days as head of the Department of Government Efficiency from January 20th to May 30th, 2025, did you access government information about your competitors? Did you influence contract awards to your companies? Did you eliminate investigators looking into Tesla and SpaceX? Musk's smirk falters just for a second, but every camera in the room catches it. I followed all applicable laws and regulations, he says carefully. That's not what I asked. Crockett's voice hardens. Yes or no? Did you use Doge to benefit your companies and harm your competitors? Musk looks at his lawyer. The lawyer, nervous, expensive suit, frantically taking notes, whispers urgently. Musk waves him off. This is a political witch hunt, Musk says, trying to regain control. How many is this now? You people have been trying to destroy me for years. Behind him, the gallery is split. Half wearing MAGA hats and Musk 2028 shirts, half holding signs: corruption, oligarchy. Crockett lets his deflection hang there for a moment. Then she holds up the first document. Let me tell you what we know, Mr. Musk. And then you can decide if you want to keep calling this a witch hunt. She pauses. Every eye is on her. Every camera is live. Every network is broadcasting. In the 130 days you ran Doge, your companies received $2.1 billion in government contracts. 17 investigations into Tesla and SpaceX were closed or suspended. 62 federal investigators who worked on cases involving your companies were fired. 8 of your major competitors lost contracts worth $847 million. All contracts that your companies then won. She looks up, stares directly at him. And you made $38 billion during those 130 days, $38 billion while serving as a government employee, supposedly cutting waste. The room is dead silent. So I'll ask you again, Mr. Musk. Did you use your government position to benefit your private companies? Musk opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. His lawyer is pulling at his sleeve now, whispering frantically. Musk's face cycles through expressions: anger, defiance, calculation, fear. 5 seconds. 10, 15. He starts, stops. This is taken out of context. What context? Crockett asks quietly. What context makes $2.1 billion in contracts during your government tenure acceptable? What context makes firing investigators examining your companies acceptable? What context makes corporate espionage using government access acceptable? Musk has no answer because there is no good answer. And over the next 8 hours, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is going to prove it. 6 months earlier, on a Tuesday morning in May 2025, Elon Musk had tweeted, "As my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. The Doge mission will only strengthen over time." Exactly 130 days after starting, exactly when the legal limit for special government employees expired. He'd spent those 130 days with unprecedented access to government data, Treasury payment systems, NASA contract files, Labor Department investigation records, SEC enforcement documents, everything. And now in November 2025, he was sitting in a congressional hearing room, subpoenaed to explain what he'd done with that access. The subpoena had come after months of pressure. Congresswoman Crockett had spent the summer investigating, following leads, connecting dots. She'd seen the contract awards, the suspicious timing, the fired investigators, the closed cases. She'd compiled 4,247 pages of evidence, and she'd convinced the House Oversight Committee to issue a subpoena compelling Musk to testify. Musk's lawyers had fought it, argued he was a private citizen, argued executive privilege, argued harassment, but Judge Tanya Chutkan had ruled clearly, Musk had operated as a government employee. Congress had oversight authority. The subpoena was valid. Now he sat at the witness table, sworn in, forced to answer questions he'd been avoiding for months. Crockett looked down at him from the dais. She'd waited for this moment, prepared for it. She knew every document in her stack, every witness she'd call, every trap she'd laid. "Mr. Musk," she began, "let's start at the beginning. On January 20, 2025, you became head of the Department of Government Efficiency. What was your understanding of your role?" Musk leaned into his microphone, back to the confident tone. "To identify waste, fraud, and abuse in government spending, to recommend cuts, to make government more efficient." "And what authority did you have?" DOGE had broad access to executive branch systems and databases. "We could review contracts, personnel, spending, anything necessary to identify waste." "Anything necessary?" Crockett repeated. "Did that include information about your own companies?" DOGE reviewed all government spending. "That's not what I asked." "Did you personally access information about SpaceX and Tesla?" Musk hesitated. "I saw what the DOGE team saw." "So yes, you accessed information about your own companies while serving in government." Crockett pulled out a document. "Did you also access information about your competitors?" "We reviewed all major contractors." "Your competitors specifically, Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Ford." She held up the document. "These are Treasury Department access logs. They show DOGE users accessed detailed financial records for all of these companies on February 12, 2025, pricing data, profit margins, cash flow. Were you aware of this?" DOGE was evaluating whether the government was paying fair prices by accessing your competitors' proprietary financial data. Crockett's voice sharpened. "Mr. Musk, that's not government oversight. That's corporate espionage." "Objection." Musk's lawyer jumped up. "That's argumentative." "This is a congressional hearing, not a trial," the chairman said. "The congresswoman may characterize the evidence as she sees fit." "Proceed." Crockett pulled out another document. "Let's talk about Blue Origin." On February 15, 2025, NASA issued a request for proposals for a $340 million satellite contract. Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin, and SpaceX all submitted bids. Were you aware of this? "I'm aware of major NASA contracts." On February 18, 3 days after the RFP, DOGE accessed NASA's contract evaluation files, including all 3 technical proposals, including your competitors' proprietary technical specifications. She looked up. "Did you see those proposals, Mr. Musk?" "I may have been briefed on them." "You saw Blue Origin's technical proposal, your competitors' confidential design, their engineering approach, their pricing strategy." DOGE was evaluating. 2 weeks later, Crockett interrupted, NASA canceled Blue Origin's contract. 1 month after that, SpaceX won an almost identical contract using a technical approach remarkably similar to what Blue Origin had proposed. Coincidence? Musk's jaw clenched. SpaceX has the best technology. That's why we win contracts. Or you win because you saw your competitor's proposal and undercut their price. Crockett pulled out photos. These were taken by a NASA employee. They showed DOGE staffers, including 2 former SpaceX engineers, using personal phones to photograph Blue Origin's technical specifications. She held up the photos. The gallery stirred. Even some Republicans looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Musk, did you instruct your staff to photograph competitor proposals?" "I don't micromanage." "That's not a denial." "Did you know it was happening?" Silence. Musk looked at his lawyer again. "Let me move on," Crockett said. "We'll come back to Blue Origin. Let's talk about the investigators you fired." On March 3, 2025, Crockett continued, DOGE issued recommendations to eliminate redundant positions in various federal agencies. Among those positions, 62 investigators working on cases related to Tesla and SpaceX. Coincidence? We eliminated positions across the entire government, Musk said. Thousands of positions. Those 62 were part of a comprehensive efficiency review. Comprehensive, Crockett repeated. Let's look at the comprehensive part. She pulled out a thick binder. These are the personnel files for those 62 investigators. Want to know what they had in common? She didn't wait for an answer. 14 were NHTSA investigators examining Tesla's full self-driving safety record. 8 were FAA investigators reviewing SpaceX launch procedures. 12 were SEC investigators looking into Musk's Twitter acquisition and Tesla stock manipulation. 9 were Labor Department investigators examining workplace safety violations at Tesla factories. 7 were EPA investigators reviewing emissions data from Tesla vehicles. And 12 were Pentagon investigators examining cost overruns on SpaceX contracts. She looked up. Every single one of these investigators was working on a case involving your companies, and you fired all of them. DOJ didn't fire anyone directly. We made recommendations. The agencies made final decisions. Agencies run by Trump appointees, Crockett shot back. Appointees who followed your recommendations within days, sometimes within hours. She pulled out emails. These are communications between DOJ and agency heads. March 3, 9:47 a.m., DOJ sends efficiency recommendations to Transportation Secretary. March 3, 2:15 p.m., Transportation Secretary issues termination notices to 14 NHTSA investigators. 4 hours and 28 minutes. She held up more emails. March 3, 10:22 a.m., DOJ sends recommendations to Labor Secretary. March 3, 3:40 p.m., 9 Labor Department investigators terminated. 5 hours and 18 minutes. This wasn't efficiency, Mr. Musk. This was a purge of every investigator looking into your companies. Musk leaned forward. Those investigations were politically motivated witch hunts. They'd been going on for years with no results. We saved taxpayer money by ending wasteful investigations. No results. Crockett's voice rose. The NHTSA investigation had documented 127 crashes involving Tesla's full self-driving feature, 43 fatalities. The SEC investigation had evidence of securities fraud related to your Twitter takeover. The Labor Department had documented safety violations at 5 Tesla factories. These investigations had results, Mr. Musk. They just weren't results you liked. She pulled out more documents. Let me read you something. This is from an internal NHTSA memo written 2 days before those investigators were fired. Investigation into Tesla FSD has reached critical stage. Recommendation for recall of 2.1 million vehicles to be issued within 30 days. Briefing with administrators scheduled for March 5. She looked up. March 5, 2 days after you had those investigators fired, 2 days before they could issue their recall recommendation. Coincidence? I had no knowledge of specific investigation timelines. You had access to everything, Mr. Musk. DOJ could access any database, any file, any document in the executive branch. Are you telling me you didn't look at investigations into your own companies? Silence. Musk's lawyer whispered something. Musk shook his head slightly. Let me tell you what I think happened, Crockett said, her voice dropping to something dangerous. I think you accessed those investigation files. I think you saw what was coming. And I think you used your government position to eliminate the investigators before they could complete their work, not to save taxpayer money, to save yourself. That's speculation, Musk said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Is it? Crockett pulled out a laptop. Because we have your search history. The room went completely silent. What? Musk said. DOJ computer systems, government-issued devices, everything logged. She turned the laptop screen toward the gallery, though from this distance, no one could read it, but the cameras zoomed in. On March 1, 2025, at 11:43 p.m., someone using your credentials accessed NHTSA case file TS 20247721, the Tesla FSD investigation. You spent 47 minutes reading it. She looked at him. Want to revise your statement about not knowing specific investigation timelines? Musk's face had gone pale. His lawyer was writing furiously now, passing notes. Musk pushed them away. "I may have reviewed some files," he said carefully. "That was part of my job to understand what agencies were working on. And 2 days later, you recommended firing everyone working on that case." "That wasn't. We didn't target specific investigations. Your search history shows you accessed files on all 62 investigators before recommending their termination. You researched them. You identified them, and then you got them fired." Crockett paused. Let it sink in. Let the cameras capture Musk's expression, trapped, desperate, calculating his next move. "Let's move on," she said. "Let's talk about the contracts. During your 130 days at Doge," Crockett continued, "your companies, SpaceX, Tesla, Starlink, and related entities, received 23 government contracts worth a combined $2.1 billion. That's an average of $16.2 million per day. Every single day you worked in government, your companies received $16 million in taxpayer money." She pulled out a chart, large, color-coded, devastating in its clarity. "Let's break this down. In the 130 days before you joined Doge, September 2024 to January 2025, your companies received 4 contracts worth $287 million total. For comparison, in the 130 days you ran Doge, your companies received 23 contracts worth $2.1 billion. That's a 632% increase in value and a 475% increase in number of contracts." She looked up. "Quite the coincidence." "SpaceX and Tesla are major government contractors," Musk said. "We bid on contracts all the time. We win because we're the best." "The best?" Crockett repeated. "Or because you had access to your competitors' bids." She pulled out more documents. March 15, 2025, Department of Defense issues RFP for satellite launch services, $470 million contract. For companies bid, SpaceX, Blue Origin, United Launch Alliance, and Arianespace. On March 17, 2 days later, Doge accesses DoD contract evaluation database, specifically the files containing all 4 technical proposals and pricing data. "We were evaluating government spending efficiency." March 22, SpaceX's bid is revised, lowered by exactly 3.2%, just enough to undercut Blue Origin's bid by $1.7 million. SpaceX wins the contract. Blue Origin files a protest, but by then you'd already left Doge, and the protest goes nowhere. She held up another document. "This is Blue Origin's protest filing. They argue that someone had access to their confidential pricing data." "They're right. Doge had access. You had access. That's an accusation without proof." "Then explain this." Crockett turned her laptop again. "This is an email from a Doge staffer who previously worked at SpaceX to your personal email address. March 19, 2025. Subject line, DoD Launch Contract Competitor Analysis. Attached is a spreadsheet comparing all 4 bids, including pricing data that should have been confidential." She looked at Musk. "You received this email 3 days before SpaceX revised its bid, 3 days before you undercut your competitor by the exact margin needed to win." Musk's lawyer stood. "Congresswoman, my client cannot be expected to remember every email he receives. Mr. Musk receives thousands of emails per day." "Then let's look at his response," Crockett said calmly. She read from the screen. "Good work. Make sure SpaceX team sees this before final bid. M. Sent March 19, 11:37 p.m. That's you, isn't it, Mr. Musk? E.M. Elon Musk." The gallery erupted in murmurs. The chairman banged his gavel. Musk sat frozen, his face unreadable. "One contract," Crockett continued, her voice cutting through the noise. "That's one contract. We have evidence of similar patterns in 6 other major awards. Every time the same sequence, Doge accesses competitor data. Information flows to your companies. Your companies revise bids. Your companies win contracts." She pulled out a timeline, large, detailed, damning. February 12, Doge accesses NASA lunar lander proposals. February 18, SpaceX revises its bid. March 4, SpaceX wins $380 million contract. February 28, Doge accesses DOE electric vehicle charging network data. March 7, Tesla revises its bid. March 15, Tesla wins $290 million contract. March 10, Doge accesses Defense Department satellite communications RFP. March 14, Starlink revises pricing. March 22, Starlink wins $620 million contract. She looked up from the timeline. 6 contracts, same pattern every time, access, revision, award. $2.1 billion total, all while you were supposedly serving the American people as a government efficiency expert. Correlation is not causation, Musk said. But his voice had lost all conviction. You're right, Crockett said. Correlation is not causation. But when we have access logs, emails, revised bids, and a 632% increase in contract value, that's not correlation. That's a pattern. That's evidence. That's corruption. She paused. Let the word hang there. Corruption. And it gets worse, she continued. Because it's not just that your companies won contracts, it's that your competitors lost them. 8 major competitors, Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Ford, GM, United Launch Alliance, and Arianespace, lost contracts worth $847 million during your tenure. Contracts they were favored to win. Contracts that mysteriously went to your companies instead. She pulled out a thick folder. We interviewed procurement officers at 6 agencies. Off the record, they told us they were pressured to reconsider awards, to reopen evaluations, to give SpaceX or Tesla another look. The pressure came from political appointees who were taking orders from Doge, from you. That's hearsay. It's testimony, Crockett corrected. Testimony will be referring to the Justice Department. But let's move on, because the money you made personally is even more staggering than the contracts your companies won. January 20, 2025, Crockett said, pulling up a financial chart on the large screen behind her. The day you started at Doge, your net worth, $320 billion. May 30, 2025, the day you left Doge, your net worth, $358 billion. Personal gain, $38 billion in 130 days. She let that number sink in. $38 billion while serving as a government employee earning $100 per year. That's $292 million per day, every day for 130 days. The stock market fluctuates, Musk said. Tesla and SpaceX valuations go up and down. I don't control that. You're right. You don't control the stock market, but you do control what information investors have. And during your time at Doge, your companies benefited from some very convenient information releases. Crockett pulled out news articles. March 8, 2025, Tesla announces breakthrough in battery technology. Stock rises 12%. But here's what's interesting. That breakthrough was developed using EPA emissions data that Tesla accessed through a Doge-mandated information sharing program. Data that was supposed to be confidential. March 22, 2025, SpaceX announces new Defense Department contract, the satellite contract we discussed earlier. Stock valuation increases by $18 billion. You personally made $3.2 billion on that announcement, an announcement of a contract you helped secure using competitor intelligence. April 15, 2025, Starlink announces expansion of government contracts. Your company's combined valuation increases by $41 billion. You personally made $7.3 billion. These contracts were awarded by agencies that you, had oversight over. She looked up from her notes. Mr. Musk, you didn't just use your government position to win contracts. You used it to manipulate your stock price. You used it to enrich yourself personally. You used government service as a $38 billion insider trading scheme. That's absurd. Musk's voice rose for the first time. I don't control stock prices. Investors make their own decisions. Based on information you controlled, Crockett shot back. Based on contract awards you influenced, based on investigations you killed. You controlled the information. You controlled the narrative, and you personally profited by $38 billion. She pulled out SEC filings. These are insider trading forms. During your Doge tenure, You sold $2.3 billion in Tesla stock right before 3 separate negative news stories that would have tanked the price. But those stories didn't come out until after you'd sold. Why? Because the agencies that would have released that information, NHTSA, EPA, SEC, were being controlled by DOJ, by you. You sold before crashes. You bought before surges. You always had the information first because you weren't just a CEO anymore. You were a government official with access to everything. She paused, looking at her notes, then back at Musk. In legal terms, Mr. Musk, this is called misuse of public office for private gain. It's a federal crime, and the evidence is overwhelming. Musk's lawyer was on his feet now. This is wildly inappropriate. These are unproven allegations. This hearing has become a political show trial. Sit down, counselor, the chairman said tiredly. Your client can respond to the allegations. Musk leaned into his microphone. His voice was tight now, angry. Everything I did was legal. I took no salary. I followed all ethics rules applicable to special government employees. I disclosed my financial interests. I worked 16-hour days to make government more efficient. And this is what I get. Accusations, conspiracy theories. This is why no successful business person wants to serve in government. It was a good deflection, passionate, almost convincing. Crockett let him finish. Then she smiled, cold, dangerous. You followed all ethics rules applicable to special government employees, she repeated. That's an interesting phrase because special government employees have different rules than regular federal employees, weaker rules, looser rules, rules specifically designed for part-time advisors, not for people running entire departments with access to classified information and procurement data. She pulled out a document. This is the ethics waiver you received on January 20, 2025. It exempts you from conflict of interest rules that would apply to regular government employees. It allows you to maintain your business interests while serving in government. It was signed by the White House counsel. Want to know why you got this waiver? She didn't wait for an answer. Because if you'd been designated as a regular federal employee, you would have been required to divest from your companies or place them in a blind trust. You would have been barred from any decision affecting your financial interests. You would have faced criminal penalties for exactly the kind of conduct we've documented today. But as a special government employee with this convenient waiver, you could do all of it legally, on paper, anyway. She leaned forward. Tell me, Mr. Musk, who suggested you be designated as a special government employee instead of a regular appointee? Who suggested the ethics waiver? Was it you, or was this planned from the beginning? And now she was getting to the heart of it, the conspiracy. Let's talk about how you got this job, Crockett said. November 7, 2024, 3 days after the election, you sent a text message to President-elect Trump. We have that message. She held up a printout, large font, projected on the screen behind her. I can cut $2 trillion from the federal budget and increase efficiency across all agencies, but I'll need full access to all systems and data. And I'll need protection from ethics rules that would force me to divest. Make me a special government employee, not a regular appointee. I can do this, but only if I can keep running my companies. The room went silent. Musk's face had gone white. You didn't just accept a government position, Mr. Musk. You designed it. You specified exactly what authority you needed. You requested protection from ethics rules. You made sure you could keep your business interests while serving in government. She pulled out more messages. November 10, 2024, Trump responds, love it. My lawyers are working on the structure. You'll have everything you need. We're going to blow up the bureaucracy. DJT. November 15, 2024, you text Trump again. Need to make sure my competitors don't have access to the same information. This only works if I have the edge. She looked up. You wrote that, this only works if I have the edge. What edge, Mr. Musk? What exactly were you planning that required your competitors not to have the same access? Musk's lawyer was standing again. Where did you get those messages? Those are private communications. This is a gross violation of. These messages were subpoenaed as part of our investigation, the chairman interrupted. They were obtained legally through the White House record system. They are admissible evidence. Sit down. Crockett continued, relentless. December 2, 2024, you text Trump. Launch contracts are coming up in Q1. If I'm in position by inauguration, we can make sure SpaceX gets priority. Need DoD access immediately. M. December 18, 2024, Trump responds, done. You'll have access to everything. We're going to win so much you're going to get tired of winning. DJT. January 5, 2025, you text Trump. Ethics lawyers are being difficult about the waiver. I need you to overrule them. This doesn't work if I can't see competitor data. M. January 8, 2025, Trump responds, taken care of. My people will handle the lawyers. You're good to go. DJT. Crockett set down the messages, looked at Musk. This wasn't public service, Mr. Musk. This was a business deal. You offered to cut government spending, something Trump wanted for political purposes. In exchange, you got unprecedented access to government data, protection from ethics rules, and the ability to use that access to benefit your companies and harm your competitors. You didn't join government to serve the public. You joined to serve yourself, and these messages prove it. Musk was shaking his head. You're taking everything out of context. Those messages were casual conversations. Trump and I were brainstorming. I was trying to figure out how I could help. Help yourself, Crockett said. This only works if I have the edge. Your words, Mr. Musk, not mine. She pulled out more documents. And it's not just text messages. We have emails, too. January 15, 2025, 5 days before you started at Doge, email from you to your CFO at SpaceX. Q1 is going to be huge. I'll have access to all DoD and NASA procurement by next week. Make sure our bid team is ready to move fast. We'll know exactly what we're competing against. M. January 17, 2025, email from you to Tesla's general counsel. NHTSA investigation is about to become a non-issue. I'll have oversight of Transportation Department by next week. Tell engineering to keep current FSD timeline. We won't need to delay for regulatory approval. M. She looked up. These emails were sent before you even started at Doge. You were already planning how to use your government position. You were already counting on killing investigations and winning contracts. This was premeditated, Mr. Musk. This is. I don't remember those specific emails. We have them. We have copies. We have metadata showing they came from your accounts. We have responses from your executives showing they understood what you meant. Crockett's voice was hard now. You can't deny this. The evidence is overwhelming. She pulled out one more document. And this is the most damning one. February 1, 2025, text message from you to Donald Trump. Tesla investigation is about to recommend recall. Need you to replace Transportation Secretary or at least get her to back off NHTSA. This could cost me $12 billion. You owe me. M. The gallery erupted. Republicans shouting, out of context. Democrats shouting, corruption. The chairman banging his gavel. Crockett raised her voice over the chaos. February 3, 2025, 2 days later, the Transportation Secretary announces retirement. February 8, a Trump loyalist is named acting secretary. February 10, the NHTSA investigators are reassigned. February 15, the recall recommendation is quietly shelved. She looked at Musk. You didn't just use government access, Mr. Musk. You used political leverage. You called in favors. You threatened. You manipulated the President of the United States to protect your business interests. You owe me, she repeated. You owe me. What did he owe you for, Mr. Musk? The $250 million you spent on his campaign. The 24/7 promotion on X. What was the deal? Musk stood abruptly. I'm not going to sit here and listen to conspiracy theories. You have no proof of any crime. You have messages taken out of context and twisted to fit your narrative. This is a witch hunt. Sit down, Mr. Musk, the chairman ordered. I will not. Sit down, the chairman's voice boomed. You are under subpoena. You will remain seated until this hearing is concluded, or you will be held in contempt of Congress. Do you understand? Musk stood there for a long moment, trembling with rage or fear or both. Then slowly, he sat. The room was absolutely silent. Crockett spoke quietly now, dangerously. The evidence is clear. You and Donald Trump conspired to create a government position that would give you access to classified data, procurement information, and enforcement powers. You used that position to win contracts, kill investigations, eliminate oversight, and personally profit by $38 billion. You used taxpayer dollars to enrich yourself. You betrayed the public trust. She paused. And the messages prove you planned it from the beginning. But it gets worse, Crockett continued. Because when people started asking questions, you didn't cooperate. You didn't explain. You covered it up. She pulled out more documents. April 2025, Bloomberg publishes article questioning contract awards to SpaceX. April 15, 3 DoD officials who spoke to Bloomberg are reassigned to non-supervisory positions. Coincidence? April 18, 2025, Washington Post reports on fired NHTSA investigators. April 22, the reporter's sources, 2 former Transportation Department employees, are visited by FBI agents investigating unauthorized disclosure of confidential information. Were you aware of these visits, Mr. Musk? Musk said nothing. May 2025, ProPublica requests documents about DOJ's access to procurement databases. May 8, DOJ responds claiming all such documents are deliberative process and exempt from FOIA. May 12, ProPublica sues. Were you involved in that decision to withhold documents? Still silence. May 15, 2025, New York Times reports on your text messages with Trump, an early leak before we subpoenaed the full archive. May 18, DOJ opens investigation into the leak. May 20, 2 White House staffers are fired. Were you consulted on those firings? Crockett leaned forward. Mr. Musk, at every step, when journalists got close, when investigators asked questions, when oversight was attempted, there was retaliation, there was obstruction, there was cover-up. She pulled out a laptop. These are X, posts from your personal account. April 16, 2025, Bloomberg is fake news. Totally discredited organization. April 19, Washington Post is a propaganda outlet. Everything they publish is lies. May 16, New York Times is enemy of the people. Their sources don't exist. You didn't just defend yourself. You attacked. You used your massive platform to discredit anyone who questioned you. You mobilized your 200 million followers to harass journalists. You turned criticism into a war. She pulled out printouts. This is a Twitter thread from the Bloomberg reporter who wrote about SpaceX contracts. After your tweet calling his organization fake news, he received 47,000 hostile replies in 24 hours, death threats, doxing, harassment. His home address was posted online. His children's school was identified. He had to hire private security. She looked at Musk. Did you intend that result when you called him fake news? I have a right to defend myself against false accusations, Musk said. You have a right to respond, Crockett corrected. You don't have a right to weaponize millions of followers to harass journalists. You don't have a right to use your platform to obstruct oversight. You don't have a right to turn valid criticism into a personal attack that endangers lives. She pulled out more documents. But it's not just journalists. When the Government Accountability Office opened an investigation into DOJ in April 2025, you tweeted, "GAO is a joke. Bureaucratic waste investigating efficiency. Fire them all." 3 days later, President Trump announced plans to restructure the GAO. Those plans were quietly shelved after you left DOJ, but the message was clear: investigate me and face consequences. When the Office of Government Ethics raised concerns about your role in March 2025, you tweeted, "OGE is run by partisan hacks. They're mad because I'm actually cutting waste." 1 week later, the OGE director announced early retirement. Coincidence? Crockett paused. Let it sink in. This isn't defending yourself, Mr. Musk. This is obstruction. This is witness intimidation. This is using your wealth and power to suppress oversight and accountability. She pulled out one final document. And this is the most troubling example. May 25, 2025, 5 days before you left Doge, our committee sent you a preliminary letter asking about contract awards to SpaceX. We requested documents and asked if you'd be willing to testify voluntarily. Your response came via your lawyer: Mr. Musk declines to participate in this partisan fishing expedition. He will not be providing documents or testimony without a subpoena. Any further harassment will be met with legal action. She looked up. We hadn't accused you of anything yet. We'd simply asked for information, and you threatened us with lawsuits. June 15, 2025, after you'd left Doge, we issued a subpoena for Doge records. Your lawyers fought it for 3 months. You claimed executive privilege even though you were no longer in government. You claimed the records were personal even though they were created on government systems. You threw up every possible legal barrier. We finally got the records in September. But you know what we found? The files had been scrubbed, access logs deleted, emails missing, communications vanished. An entire month of data, March 2025, the month when most of the suspicious contract awards happened, completely gone. She leaned forward. Did you order the destruction of those records, Mr. Musk? I did not. Did anyone on your team? Not to my knowledge. Then how do you explain March 2025 being completely missing from the Doge database? I don't know. Technical error. Database corruption. It happens. Convenient timing for a technical error, Crockett said. Right when we're investigating you, the most incriminating month of data disappears. And you expect us to believe that's coincidence? She pulled out a report. This is from our forensic analysis of the Doge computers. The data wasn't corrupted. It was deliberately deleted, professional-level deletion, due to standard data wiping. Someone with sophisticated technical knowledge destroyed evidence. She looked at Musk. You're a tech genius, Mr. Musk. You understand computers. You understand data. Did you personally delete these files? No. Did you order someone else to delete them? No. Did you benefit from their deletion? Silence. Because the answer was obviously yes. Let me read you something, Crockett said. She pulled out a legal statute, 18 U.S. Code Section 1519. Whoever knowingly alters, destroys, mutilates, conceals, or covers up any record or document with the intent to impede, obstruct, or influence any investigation shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. She looked up. Destruction of evidence, obstruction of justice, federal crimes. And the evidence shows someone on your team, someone with access to Doge systems, committed these crimes during the time we were investigating you. I had nothing to do with that, Musk insisted. But his voice was weak now. Maybe not directly, Crockett allowed. But you created the culture where it could happen. You modeled the behavior. You attacked journalists, threatened investigators, defied subpoenas. You made it clear that oversight was the enemy. Is it any surprise that your team destroyed evidence? She paused, then delivered the final blow. And even if you didn't order it personally, you're responsible. You were in charge. You set the tone. You benefited from the cover-up. That makes you culpable. 7 hours had passed, 7 hours of testimony, documents, evidence, revelations. The gallery was exhausted. The press was frantically filing stories. Musk looked hollowed out, defeated. But Crockett wasn't done. Let's bring this all together, Mr. Musk. Let me summarize what we've established today. She stood, walked to the evidence table, picked up her 3-inch stack of documents. You conspired with Donald Trump to create a government position that would give you unprecedented access to federal data while protecting you from ethics rules. We have the text messages proving this conspiracy. She pulled out documents as she spoke. You used that access to view your competitors' proprietary information, technical proposals, pricing data, financial records. We have the access logs proving this corporate espionage. You used that information to help your companies win contracts worth $2.1 billion. We have the emails proving you shared confidential data with your companies. You used your government position to eliminate 62 federal investigators who were examining your companies. We have your search history proving you targeted them specifically. You personally profited by $38 billion during your 130 days in government through insider trading and stock manipulation. We have the SEC filings proving the suspicious timing of your trades. When journalists investigated, you attacked them and weaponized your followers to harass them. When government watchdogs questioned you, you tried to get them fired. When Congress issued subpoenas, you obstructed and delayed. And when we finally got access to the evidence, someone on your team destroyed the most incriminating records. We have forensic analysis proving deliberate destruction of evidence. She set down the stack, looked at Musk. This isn't a witch hunt, Mr. Musk. This isn't partisan politics. This isn't taken out of context. This is a comprehensive, documented, irrefutable record of corruption on a scale rarely seen in American government. She paused. Let it sink in. Your companies received $2.1 billion in government contracts during your tenure. Your personal wealth increased by $38 billion. 17 investigations into your companies were killed. 62 investigators were fired. Your competitors lost $847 million in contracts that your companies then won. Another pause. The silence was deafening. So, here's my question, Mr. Musk, and I want a yes or no answer. Did you use your government position to benefit your private companies and harm your competitors? Musk stared at her, his mouth opened, closed, opened again. His lawyer was whispering frantically. Musk shook his head. 5 seconds, 10, 15, 20. The silence stretched, unbearable, damning. 25, 30 to 30 seconds of dead silence. The longest 30 seconds in congressional hearing history. Finally, Musk spoke. I exercised my judgment as head of DOJ to identify waste and improve efficiency. That's not an answer. Yes or no? Did you use government power for personal gain? I followed all applicable laws. That's not what I asked. Yes or no? 45 seconds total now. Musk looked like he was drowning. Mr. Musk, Crockett said quietly, dangerously. If you're innocent, say no. If you did nothing wrong, say no. It's a simple word, 2 letters. Just say it. Musk looked at his lawyer. The lawyer nodded grimly. I decline to answer on Fifth Amendment grounds. The room erupted. Republicans shouting objections. Democrats shouting condemnations. Gallery in chaos. Press running for exits to file breaking news. Cameras flashing. Pure pandemonium. But Crockett just smiled coldly, victoriously. Let the record show, she said into her microphone, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade, that Elon Musk, when asked directly if he used his government position to benefit his private companies, invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. She let that hang there. Then let the record also show that invoking the Fifth Amendment is a constitutional right. But it is also, in this context, an admission that answering truthfully would expose him to criminal liability. Musk stood abruptly, chair scraping loudly. I'm done. I've been here for 7 hours. I've answered your questions. This hearing is a disgrace. Sit down, Mr. Musk, the chairman ordered. I'm leaving. Musk's voice was raw now, desperate. If you leave, you will be held in contempt of Congress. Musk hesitated at the door. Security officers had moved to block his exit. His lawyer was frantically pulling at his arm, whispering urgently. Television cameras tracked his every movement, the entire world watching. For a long moment, he stood there, trapped between the door and the witness table, between freedom and consequences, between defiance and submission. His face cycled through expressions: rage, fear, calculation, defeat. Then slowly, so slowly, he walked back to the witness table and sat down, defeated, humiliated, caught. Do you have any further questions, Congresswoman? The chairman asked quietly. Crockett looked at Musk. Really looked at him, the richest man in the world, worth $358 billion, master of Tesla, SpaceX, the men who wanted to colonize Mars, the men who thought he was above the law. And in that moment, he looked small, broken, human. No further questions, she said quietly. The evidence speaks for itself. The chairman brought down his gavel with a sharp crack that echoed through the silent room. This hearing is adjourned. Mr. Musk, you are dismissed, but be advised that the Department of Justice will be receiving our full investigative file, including all evidence and testimony presented today. Musk stood slowly, didn't look at anyone, didn't make a statement. His lawyer grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the exit. Security surrounded them. Camera operators rushed forward, creating a phalanx of lenses and microphones. The walk to the door seemed to take forever, every step captured, every expression analyzed. The richest man in the world doing the perp walk in slow motion. Behind him, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett gathered her papers, 4,247 pages of evidence, 7 hours of testimony, 1 devastating confrontation, and 1 30-second silence that said everything. As the door closed behind Musk, she allowed herself a small moment, a breath, a moment of satisfaction. But only a moment, because the real work was just beginning. CNN Control Room, 11:47 p.m., November 14, 2025. We're at 127 million views, the assistant producer said, eyes locked on her screen. Across all platforms, and it's still climbing. Jake Tapper stood in the middle of the control room, watching monitors showing the same clip from different angles. Elon Musk, 30 seconds of silence, then, I decline to answer on Fifth Amendment grounds. Run it again, the executive producer ordered. They'd been running it for 4 hours straight. Since the hearing ended at 6 p.m., every news network had been playing the same clip on loop, the 30-second silence, Musk's face, the calculation, the fear, the defeat, and then that word, fifth. Twitter, sorry, X, is completely melting down. Another producer called out. It's trending #1 worldwide, Elon Musk Fifth Amendment, Doge corruption, Crockett destroys Musk. Even oligarch is trending. Tapper looked at the monitors, split screens showing reactions. MSNBC's Rachel Maddow calling it the most significant congressional testimony since Watergate. Fox News' Sean Hannity claiming it was a partisan hit job. CNN's own analysts dissecting every second. But the clip itself, that was what mattered. That was what people were watching over and over, sharing, memeing. The moment when the richest man in the world couldn't say no to a simple question. How's the stock market reacting? The executive producer asked. A financial analyst pulled up data. Tesla's down 11% in after-hours trading. SpaceX is private, but secondary market pricing suggests a 15 to 20% valuation drop. His net worth has fallen by about $32 billion since the hearing ended. Jesus, someone muttered. That's just the beginning, the analyst continued. Wait until markets open tomorrow. This is going to be a bloodbath. On the screen, they ran the clip again, 30 seconds of silence. The cameras had captured it from multiple angles, the way his jaw clenched, the way his eyes darted to his lawyer, the way his hands gripped the table. Every micro-expression. Every tell. Every moment of pure panic. He's cooked, Tapper said quietly. I've covered a lot of hearings, seen a lot of testimony, but that's over. He's done. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, November 15, 2025. So Elon Musk testified before Congress yesterday, Colbert began, and the audience immediately started laughing and applauding. He hadn't even gotten to the joke yet. Yeah, you know where this is going, he continued, grinning. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who is quickly becoming my hero by the way, asked Musk if he used his government position to benefit his companies. He pulled out a stopwatch, held it up. Now, normally when someone asks you a yes or no question, it takes about 1 second to answer, maybe 2 if you're thinking. But Elon Musk, he took 30 seconds. Colbert started the stopwatch, stared at the camera, said nothing. The audience started laughing after 5 seconds. After 10 seconds, they were howling. After 15 seconds, people were shouting, say something. After 20 seconds, the laughter had turned to applause. After 30 seconds, Colbert stopped the watch. And then after 30 seconds of silence that felt like 30 years, you know what he said. I decline to answer on Fifth Amendment grounds. The audience erupted. You know who takes the fifth? Colbert asked, leaning into the camera. Guilty people. That's who takes the fifth. Innocent people say, no, I didn't do that. Guilty people say, I refuse to answer because my answer might incriminate me. He picked up a document. And this is what makes it amazing. Crockett had 4,247 pages of evidence, text messages, emails, access logs. She had him dead to rights. And instead of even trying to explain, instead of even attempting to justify his actions, he just took the fifth. More laughter and applause. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, worth $358 billion, too rich to answer questions, too powerful to be accountable. Colbert paused. At least he thought he was. Turns out Congresswoman Crockett didn't get the memo. The audience cheered. There's a clip going around, you've probably seen it, where Crockett lists everything Musk did: $2.1 billion in contracts, $38 billion personal gain, 62 fired investigators. And after each one, she just stares at him, waiting. And Musk just sits there squirming like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Except the cookie jar is the United States Treasury, and the cookies are worth billions of dollars. He showed the clip. The audience watched in silence as Crockett delivered her devastating summary, then erupted in applause when she asked, "Did you use your government position to benefit your private companies?" And then the 30-second silence. That silence, Colbert said, is the sound of oligarchy dying. That's the sound of accountability. That's the sound of, oh crap, I actually have to answer for what I did. He looked at the camera. Elon, buddy, I know you're watching. Here's some free advice. When a congresswoman asks you a yes or no question and you have 4,247 pages of evidence stacked against you, maybe don't do the thing that makes you look most guilty. Just a thought. Trading floor, Goldman Sachs, November 15, 2025, 9:31 a.m. Tesla's in free fall, the trader shouted over the chaos. Down 18% at open, now down 23%. Circuit breakers might trigger. The head of the trading desk watched the screens in horror. Red everywhere, Tesla, every company associated with Musk. The entire EV sector dragging down with it. SpaceX secondary market down 28%. No one wants to touch it. What about the defense contractors? Lockheed, Northrop. They're all up. Blue Origin's private valuation jumped 15% overnight. Everyone's betting Musk loses his government contracts. A junior analyst ran over with a printout. DoD just announced comprehensive review of all SpaceX contracts. That's $3.2 billion at risk. NASA's doing the same. Another $1.8 billion. The head trader sat down. Jesus, he's going to lose everything. Not everything, another trader corrected. He's still worth $326 billion. He just lost $32 billion yesterday, and he's still the richest man in the world. For now, the head trader said quietly. Wait until the criminal charges hit. Wait until the civil lawsuits. Wait until the contract cancellations. This is just the beginning. On the screens, Tesla's stock price continued to plummet. Investors were running. The smart money was getting out while they could. The clip played on one of the news monitors mounted on the wall, 30 seconds of silence, then, I decline to answer on Fifth Amendment grounds. You know what the worst part is? The junior analyst said. He thought he was untouchable. He thought he could do anything. And for 130 days, he was right. Yeah, the head trader said. And then he met Jasmine Crockett. Department of Justice, Criminal Division, November 15, 2025, 2 p.m. The conference room was packed, 20 federal prosecutors, 5 FBI agents, 3 DOJ officials, all watching the same presentation. Assistant Attorney General Lisa Monaco stood at the front, going through the evidence slide by slide. 18 U.S. Code Section 201, Bribery of Public Officials. He used his position to benefit his companies in exchange for, well, the campaign contributions, the Twitter promotion, the political support. That's a bribe. Next slide. 18 U.S. Code Section 1346, Honest Services Fraud. He deprived the public of his honest services as a government official. Clear violation. Next slide. 15 U.S. Code Section 78J, Securities Fraud. The insider trading alone is enough for multiple charges. He had material non-public information and traded on it repeatedly. Next slide. 18 U.S. Code Section 1519, Obstruction of Justice. The deleted files, the destroyed evidence, the witness intimidation through his Twitter attacks. She turned to face the room. We have him. The congressional testimony gives us everything we need. Musk invoking the fifth is effectively an admission of guilt. We can charge him. When? One of the prosecutors asked. That's the question, Monaco said. Do we move now while this is hot, while public opinion is on our side? Or do we take our time, build an absolutely airtight case, and indict in 6 months? If we wait 6 months, the political landscape could shift, another prosecutor argued. Trump could interfere. Musk could flee the country. We should move now. If we move now, we risk looking political, a third countered. This needs to be about the law, not the news cycle. Monaco nodded. I hear both sides, but here's what I think. We announce the investigation immediately. Make it clear we're taking this seriously. But we take 4 months, not 6, 4 to present everything to a grand jury. We indict in March. That gives us time to do it right, but not so much time that Musk can rebuild his defenses. What are we looking at for charges? An FBI agent asked. Monaco pulled up a final slide. 18 separate federal charges: bribery, honest services fraud, securities fraud, wire fraud, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, false claims act violations. If convicted on all counts, he's looking at 20 to 30 years. The room went silent. He'll never see the inside of a prison, someone said quietly. Rich people don't go to prison. Maybe, Monaco allowed, but we're going to try. And even if he doesn't do time, we're going to destroy his reputation. We're going to take his government contracts. We're going to fine him billions. We're going to make sure that what he did has consequences. She looked around the room. Elon Musk thought he was above the law. He thought wealth meant immunity. We're going to prove him wrong. Blue Origin Headquarters, November 16, 2025. The conference room erupted in applause when the news came on. Blue Origin, along with Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, announced today they are filing civil lawsuits against Elon Musk and SpaceX alleging corporate espionage and improper use of government data to win contracts. Bob Smith, Blue Origin's CEO, stood at the front of the room, arms crossed, satisfied smile on his face. We're seeking $2.3 billion in damages, he told his executive team. That's every contract we lost during Musk's time at Doge, plus punitive damages, plus legal fees. Can we prove he used our data? The general counsel asked. Crockett already proved it, Smith said. We have the congressional record. We have the access logs. We have the emails. And now we have Musk invoking the Fifth Amendment, which we can use against him in civil court. He pulled up a document. This is our complaint, 200 pages. Every suspicious contract award. Every suspicious timing. Every piece of evidence suggesting Musk saw our proprietary information and used it against us. The other companies are filing similar suits. Lockheed is going after the satellite contracts. Northrop is targeting the defense work. Ford and GM are suing over the EV charging network. Boeing is going after commercial space. He looked at his team. Collectively, we're seeking over $5 billion in damages. And the discovery process, we're going to get access to everything, every email Musk sent, every document Doge accessed, every communication between Musk and Trump. This is going to be ugly. Someone said, good. Smith replied, it should be ugly. What he did was ugly. He cheated. He stole. He used the United States government as his personal corporate intelligence agency. And now he's going to pay for it. On the screen behind him, the news played the clip, 30 seconds of silence, Fifth Amendment. You know what that silence cost him? Smith asked. Everything, his reputation, his contracts, his immunity, everything. And it's going to cost him a lot more before we're done. SEC Headquarters, November 17, 2025. Gary Gensler, SEC Chairman, stood before the press. Behind him, 3 other commissioners, all looking serious. The Securities and Exchange Commission is reopening its investigation into Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter, now X, in 2022. We are also opening new investigations into his trading activity during his tenure at Doge from January to May 2025. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Gensler held up a hand. Let me finish. Based on evidence presented to Congress last week, we have reason to believe that Mr. Musk violated securities laws by trading on material non-public information obtained through his government position. Specifically, we are investigating. He read from a prepared statement. First, whether Mr. Musk used confidential government procurement information to time stock sales and purchases. Second, whether he manipulated Tesla's stock price through strategic announcements of government contracts he helped secure. Third, whether he violated disclosure requirements by failing to reveal the extent of his coordination with the Trump administration. Fourth, whether his tweets about government contracts constituted securities fraud. He looked up. These are serious allegations. If proven, they would represent some of the most egregious violations of securities law we've seen in decades. The penalties could include disgorgement of profits, civil fines, and prohibition from serving as an officer or director of a public company. Chairman Gensler, a reporter shouted, how much money are we talking about? Mr. Musk's personal wealth increased by approximately $38 billion during his time at Doge. If we can prove that increase was tied to illegal trading on inside information, the disgorgement alone could exceed $30 billion. Combined with civil penalties, we could be looking at the largest securities fraud case in history. Will he go to prison? The SEC can only bring civil charges, but we are coordinating with the Department of Justice, which has opened a criminal investigation. If DOJ decides to charge, then yes, prison is a possibility. Another reporter, what about the Twitter acquisition? That investigation focuses on whether Mr. Musk made false statements to our agency and to shareholders during his acquisition of Twitter. We previously closed that investigation under pressure from, he paused carefully, from political appointees during the Trump administration. We are now reopening it with the full weight of this commission behind it. Does this have anything to do with the Fifth Amendment testimony? Gensler allowed himself a small smile. When someone invokes their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination in response to questions about using government power for personal gain, that provides what we call investigative leads. So yes, his congressional testimony was illuminating. The press conference continued for another 30 minutes, questions about timelines, about evidence, about political pressure. But the message was clear. Elon Musk was under investigation, multiple investigations, federal investigations, and the walls were closing in. Twitter headquarters, November 18, 2025, 11 p.m. The emergency board meeting had been going for 4 hours. Stock price is down 23% this week, the CFO reported. Advertisers are pulling out. 7 major brands have suspended their campaigns. User engagement is down 15%. Because everyone's talking about the hearings instead of engaging with normal content. What about Musk? A board member asked. He's tweeting, the communications director said tiredly. Constantly, claiming this is all a political hit job. Attacking Crockett, attacking the media, attacking everyone. She pulled up his recent tweets on the screen. At Elon Musk, the deep state is terrified of efficiency. That's why they're coming after me. I'm honored to be their enemy. At Elon Musk, Jasmine Crockett is a partisan hack who wouldn't recognize government waste if it hit her in the face. This whole hearing was a joke. At Elon Musk, to my 200 million followers, remember who the real enemies are, not me. The bureaucrats trying to destroy innovation. This is making it worse, the general counsel said. Every tweet is potential evidence of obstruction. He's attacking a sitting congresswoman. He's attacking federal investigators. His lawyers are begging him to stop, and he won't listen. Can we force him to stop? A board member asked. He owns the company, the CFO said flatly. He owns us. We can't force him to do anything. Then what do we do? Silence. Because there was nothing they could do. Musk owned X. He controlled Tesla. He ran SpaceX. And he was on a suicide mission, taking all of them down with him. The DOJ investigation is the real problem, the general counsel said. If they indict him, if he's charged with federal crimes, the banks will call in loans. Our credit lines will evaporate. We could face bankruptcy. Tesla, too. Tesla especially, they're a public company. Shareholders can sue. If Musk is charged with securities fraud related to Tesla, the stock could lose 50% of its value overnight. Jesus, we need to convince him to step down, someone said, temporarily, until this blows over. Let someone else run the companies while he deals with his legal problems. He'll never agree to that, the CFO said. Then we're going down with him. On the screen, Musk's latest tweet appeared. At Elon Musk, ha. They tried to destroy me before and failed. They'll fail again. I'm not going anywhere. Doge forever. Someone in the room groaned. He's insane. No, the general counsel said quietly. He's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. The meeting continued into the night, but everyone in that room knew the truth. Elon Musk had become a liability, to his companies, to his employees, to his shareholders. The richest man in the world was becoming toxic, and there was nothing they could do to stop him. 1 year later, November 14, 2026, the Capitol Rotunda was packed for the signing ceremony. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett stood beside President Biden, Trump having lost his re-election bid in dramatic fashion, as he prepared to sign the Government Ethics Reform Act of 2026. This legislation, Biden said, reading from his prepared remarks, ensures that what happened with Elon Musk and Doge can never happen again. No government official will ever again have the kind of unchecked access, the kind of power without accountability that we witnessed last year. The cameras flashed. The assembled members of Congress applauded. Crockett stood tall, proud, exhausted. It had been a long year. The bill Biden was about to sign banned special government employees from accessing competitor data, required divestment or blind trusts for anyone with procurement authority, strengthened whistleblower protections, created an independent ethics commission with real enforcement power. It was named the Crockett Act. After the ceremony, she retreated to her office, sat at her desk, let the exhaustion wash over her. A year ago today, she'd confronted Elon Musk in that hearing room, asked him the question that changed everything, watched him take the fifth. And in the year since, the consequences had been extraordinary. Flashback, March 2026. The federal grand jury had returned an 87-page indictment, 18 charges against Elon Musk, bribery, securities fraud, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. U.S. v. Musk had become the biggest criminal case since the Enron prosecutions. The trial was scheduled for September 2027, more than a year away, because that's how long it took to prepare a case this complex. That's how long rich defendants could delay. But the indictment itself had consequences. Tesla's stock had crashed another 35%. Musk's net worth had fallen to $180 billion, still obscenely wealthy, but no longer the richest man in the world. That title had passed to Bernard Arnault, then briefly to Jeff Bezos, then settled on some Saudi prince no one had heard of. SpaceX had lost its largest government contracts. NASA had awarded its lunar lander contract to Blue Origin. The Defense Department had shifted satellite launches to ULA and Lockheed. $3.2 billion in contracts gone. The SEC had imposed a record $8.5 billion fine for securities violations, still being appealed, but the damage to his reputation was permanent. The civil lawsuits from competitors had settled for a combined $4.7 billion. Musk had fought them initially, but his lawyers had convinced him that the discovery process would be devastating. Better to pay than to let Blue Origin and Lockheed and the others dig through every email, every document, every secret. Tesla had forced him to step down as CEO. He remained chairman technically, but with severely limited authority. The board had finally grown a spine, terrified of shareholder lawsuits. X, Twitter, was hemorrhaging users and advertisers. Revenue down 40%, valuation cut in half. Musk had refused to step down there, and the company was suffering for his stubbornness. He'd become radioactive, toxic, a cautionary tale. The man who'd been worth $358 billion at his peak was now worth $180 billion and falling. Still rich beyond comprehension, but broken, humiliated, facing potential prison time. Flashback, June 2026. And then there was Trump. The falling out had been spectacular, public, vicious. It started with Trump claiming he'd barely known what Doge was doing, that he'd given Musk a free hand, but had no idea he would abuse it. Classic Trump, throwing allies under the bus the moment they became liabilities. Musk had responded with a tweet, I have the receipts, every text, every call. You knew exactly what I was doing. You approved everything. Don't pretend you didn't. And then he'd leak some of the messages, not all, his lawyers wouldn't let him, but enough. Messages showing Trump explicitly approving contract awards, messages showing Trump ordering investigations closed, messages showing conspiracy. The House had opened a second investigation, this one into Trump's role. Impeachment proceedings had begun again, though they'd ultimately failed again when Senate Republicans refused to convict again. But the damage was done. Trump and Musk, once the closest of allies, were now bitter enemies, attacking each other daily on social media, each claiming the other was responsible, each trying to save himself. The 2024 campaign relationship, $250 million in donations, 24/7 promotion on X, promises of government efficiency, had collapsed into mutual betrayal. I barely knew the guy, Trump said at a rally. He begged me for the Doge job. Said he could save billions. Turned out he just wanted to steal billions. Total con artist. I fired him. Best decision I ever made. It was a lie. Musk hadn't been fired. He'd left when his special government employee status expired. But Trump needed a narrative where he was the hero, not the co-conspirator. Musk fired back, Trump is a coward. He's trying to rewrite history. I have texts showing he knew everything. When this goes to trial, I'm bringing him down with me. It was mutually assured destruction. Both of them imploding. Both of them too arrogant to shut up and let their lawyers handle it. And the prosecutors were loving it. Every tweet was evidence. Every interview was ammunition. They were building each other's cases. Flashback, September 2026. The investigators had come back, not all of them. Some had found other jobs. Some had moved on, careers damaged beyond repair by the 6 months they'd spent unemployed and blacklisted. But 12 of the NHTSA investigators had been rehired. 7 of the SEC investigators, 4 from the FAA, 3 from the Labor Department, brought back with apologies, with back pay, with acknowledgments that they'd been wrongfully terminated. Crockett had fought for that, had insisted on it as part of her ethics reform package. The people who'd been doing their jobs, who'd been investigating legitimate safety concerns and securities violations, deserved to be reinstated. They'd returned to find their cases waiting. The Tesla FSD investigation that had been killed, reopened. The SEC investigation into stock manipulation, reopened. The labor safety violations, reopened. Everything that Musk had tried to bury was being dug up again. And now, without his government protection, without his political leverage, the investigators were free to do their jobs. In October 2026, NHTSA issued its recall recommendation, 2.4 million Tesla vehicles with full self-driving features, mandatory software updates, warnings about limitations, investigations into the 43 fatalities. Tesla's stock dropped another 12%. In November 2026, the SEC filed additional charges related to statements Musk had made about Tesla's autonomous driving capabilities, securities fraud, making false statements to investors, more legal bills, more reputational damage. The investigators he'd tried to silence were getting their revenge, not personal revenge, they were professionals just doing their jobs, but the satisfaction was there nonetheless. You can't kill truth forever. Eventually, it comes back. Present day, November 2026. Crockett sat in her office, thinking about all of it, the hearing, the investigation, the year of chaos that followed. She'd become a national figure, the woman who took down Elon Musk, profile in the New York Times, cover of Time magazine, speaking invitations from every major university and organization in the country. But she was exhausted. The year had taken its toll, the constant media attention, the death threats from Musk's hardcore supporters, the pressure, the responsibility. She'd exposed corruption on a massive scale. She'd held a billionaire accountable. She'd changed the system. But she'd also learned how hard it is to actually change anything. The Crockett Act was law now, but would it be enforced? Would future administrations respect it? Or would the next billionaire who wanted government power find another loophole? The trial hadn't even happened yet. Musk was still free, still rich, still tweeting, still commanding armies of followers who believed everything he said. Justice was slow. Maybe too slow. She pulled up her computer, looked at the latest news, Musk trial delayed until 2028. Legal maneuvering, appeals, motions. Tesla's stock recovers 8% on news of potential settlement. Maybe he'd wiggle out. Trump hints at pardon for Musk if re-elected. Though Trump had lost in 2024, he was already running for 2028. The fight wasn't over. It would never be over. Because this wasn't just about Elon Musk. It was about a system that lets billionaires buy access, that lets wealth translate into power, that treats the rich differently than everyone else. Musk was just the most obvious example. But there were others. Would be others. Her chief of staff knocked on the door. "Ma'am, your 3 o'clock is here." "Who?" "David Wagner, one of the NHTSA investigators who was fired. He wanted to thank you personally." Crockett stood, straightened her jacket. "Send him in." David Wagner was in his 50s, gray hair, tired eyes. He shook her hand firmly. "Congresswoman, I just wanted to say thank you for what you did, for fighting for us." "You shouldn't have been fired in the first place," Crockett said. "You were doing your job." "I know, but that's not how it works, is it? When you're investigating someone powerful, someone with connections, they find ways to make you disappear." He paused. "You made sure we came back. That means everything." They talked for 20 minutes, about his investigation, about the recall, about how many lives might have been saved if they'd been allowed to finish their work a year earlier. When he left, Crockett felt the weight again, the responsibility, the knowledge that her work mattered, that there were real people behind the statistics, real lives affected by corruption. She couldn't stop, couldn't give up. Because if she did, who would hold the next Elon Musk accountable? Georgetown Restaurant, November 14, 2026, 7:30 p.m. The event was a fundraiser for some tech industry group, the kind of Washington mixer where politicians and business leaders mingled, made connections, cut deals. Crockett hadn't wanted to attend, but her staff had insisted, "You need to be visible. You need to show you're not anti-business, just anti-corruption." She was making her way through the crowd, shaking hands, making small talk, when she saw him. Elon Musk. He was thinner than he'd been a year ago, older looking, the characteristic confidence replaced by something harder, more brittle. Their eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither moved. The crowd seemed to sense the tension, people stepping back, creating space. Then Musk walked over. Alone. No handlers, no lawyers, just him. "Congresswoman," he said. His voice was flat, neutral. "Mr. Musk," she replied, equally neutral. They stood there, 2 feet apart, in the middle of a crowded room that had gone suddenly quiet. "Congratulations on your bill," Musk said. "I'm sure you're very proud." "I am," Crockett said. "It was necessary. To stop people like me. To stop corruption by anyone." Musk smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You destroyed my reputation, cost me hundreds of billions, made me a villain." "You did that to yourself," Crockett said quietly. "I just asked questions. You chose not to answer them. Because you gave me no choice. You had me dead to rights. What was I supposed to say?" "The truth. You were supposed to tell the truth." Musk laughed, a bitter sound. "The truth? The truth is I tried to help. I tried to make government more efficient, and I got crucified for it. You used government power to enrich yourself. That's not help. That's corruption. I followed all the rules applicable to my position. You designed your position specifically to avoid the real rules. You and Trump created a loophole so you could do exactly what you did." Musk's jaw clenched. "You don't understand how things work, how power works, how the system works." "I understand perfectly. That's why I'm trying to change it." They stared at each other, a year of history between them, a hearing that changed everything, 30 seconds of silence that echoed forever. "You haven't won," Musk said finally. "The trial hasn't happened. I have the best lawyers money can buy. I'll beat this." "Maybe," Crockett allowed. "Rich people usually do. But you'll never be what you were. You'll never have the credibility, the influence, the respect. That's gone forever. I'm still worth $180 billion. And you're still going to die alone, hated, a cautionary tale. Money can't buy back reputation. Can't buy back trust. You had everything, and you threw it away for a few billion more. Musk's face darkened. You're very self-righteous for someone who's built a career on attacking successful people. I've built a career on holding powerful people accountable. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Then you're not standing in the right place. They stood there for another moment, neither willing to back down, neither willing to give the other satisfaction. Finally, Musk turned to leave. Paused, looked back. This isn't over, Congresswoman. I have resources. I have time. I have 200 million followers who believe me, not you. This fight continues. I look forward to it, Crockett said. Because next time you won't have government protection. Next time it's just you against the law, and the law doesn't care how rich you are. Musk walked away. The crowd parted for him, but differently than it used to. No one approached. No one sought his attention. He walked alone to the exit, surrounded by space, but not by people. Crockett watched him go, felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just exhaustion. Because he was right about one thing, it wasn't over. It would never be over. Crockett's office, November 14, 2026, 11 p.m. She was alone, the office dark except for her desk lamp, working late as always. On her computer screen, the latest polling on public trust in government, still low, still damaged by years of corruption, by figures like Musk who used public office for private gain. The Crockett Act would help, maybe, if it was enforced, if future administrations cared. But systemic change was hard, slow, incomplete. She thought about the year, about everything that had happened, about what had changed and what hadn't. Musk was facing trial, but he was still free, still rich, still influential. Trump had lost re-election, but he was already planning a comeback, already raising money, already plotting. The investigators were back, but some had left government forever, careers destroyed. The contracts had been reviewed, but SpaceX still had billions in government work. Tesla still sold to federal fleets. Justice was messy, incomplete, frustrating. She pulled up the video, the one she watched sometimes when she needed to remember why she did this.